What is up, my friends? It is Tuesday night's late night agenda. Thank you all for joining me. Appreciate you being in. I tell you what, it never gets old when you're sitting here and you're looking at the viewer count go up while you're starting a stream or you're waiting with the waiting screen. It's always exciting to see the numbers start to grow as people get their notifications and stuff. It's one of my favourite parts about getting to do this is looking down and seeing people go, oh, we're live, let's come in and have a chat. Yeah, so thank you for giving up some of your evening. There is a lot to go through. Lots of stuff today with the mic'd up show dropping, with the situation going on with Mbappe, with the links to AIT-NOURI, COLWILL and a few others. And then, of course, Jose Mourinho getting the chop at Roma. What does that mean? Will he end up back in the Premier League? Newcastle's name has been mentioned. Loads and loads. But most importantly, whatever you want to talk about, that's what we're here to do tonight, my friends. So let's say a few thank yous to everybody. Mark, of course, our chief mod, is in the chat. Appreciate you being in, Mark. And everybody else. I've seen Russell and a few others having a conversation beforehand about Mbappe and how PSG can afford the rumoured wages that he's been offered. And there were some good points. That's why I bring it up. I was looking at the conversation and Russell raised some good points. Other people in the chat raised some good points. But it still confuses me how they can afford to drop €2 million a week and other more established, bigger clubs can't really afford to do it. So that never ceases to amaze me. But I guess it depends how you want to run your football clubs, right? You've got your FSG type ownerships who like to have wiggle room there. And I think, and I've kind of intimated this a little bit over the past few days, weirdly it feels like we could be coming to a time in world football where FSG's ways and the way that they've operated might actually finally come good. Because we've seen clubs like Arsenal, Manchester United, Newcastle, with the new profit and loss or profit and sustainability of the Premier League, have to find ways to generate more income or to free up money to be able to sign players. We don't have that predicament. And I guess if we're to give credit to our owners, that will be one of the things we give them credit for. But they're still tight-fisted and they still need to spend more money, but in the right ways. Craig, what is the shiny head made of? It's you wouldn't understand it. It's nothing that humans could figure out, mate. You know, people have looked at my shiny noggin from space and tried to figure it out as well. And I can't confirm this, but I'm pretty sure that they use my head to reflect stuff back up to satellites. But I've never quite been able to figure out how they've done that yet. So leave it with me. I'll work on it. Newcastle could do worse than Jose. It's an interesting one, right, Drew Vat? It is an interesting one, mate. Because I've said for a long time now, Eddie Howe is a here and now coach for Newcastle. I don't think he's a take them to the next level coach. Because I quite frankly don't think Eddie Howe's standard or stock in world football is high enough to really attract the players that Newcastle will hope to do as their ownership evolves of that club. So at some point, I think they will have to bring in somebody who can attract those players. And that's not, taking cheap shots at Eddie Howe. The job he's done at Newcastle has been brilliant. But the club has visions of joining the Liverpools, the Manchester Uniteds of this world. And to do that, you got to have a figurehead manager, whether that is a Pep Guardiola or whether it's a Jurgen Klopp. It isn't. And it won't be an Eric Ten Hag. But look, that conversation's for another day. Eddie Howe was like when we had Brendan Rodgers. I think that's a pretty good comparison. Yeah, I think the job at the time for Brendan Rodgers was probably too big of a job too soon in his managerial career. And I do often wonder what would have happened if Rodgers had been a few more years into his managerial stint if FSG had to come along. But look, I'm glad where we are right now with Jurgen, and that's certainly the manager we wanted the club. So look, a lot for me to go through tonight, and I want to, as always, be led by you guys about what topics you'd like me to cover first. But before we get stuck into it, just a quick thing I seen from Joe Cole. So he was speaking, and he said Joe Cole has admitted he wouldn't join Liverpool if he had his time again, and only left Chelsea because he knew he was on the decline as a player. So Joe Cole's quotation from this is, "I wish I hadn't signed for Liverpool." Joe, and I think I can speak for all Liverpool fans, mate, that feeling is absolutely mutual. We very, very much wish that you hadn't joined Liverpool Football Club as well, pal. Despite Steven Gerrard saying you can do stuff on the training pitch like Messi, you certainly didn't translate that to the football pitch. So it just never felt like a good fit. Joe Cole struck me as more of a kind of London, Chelsea, West Ham type of fella who just doesn't really fit into Liverpool Football Club. So I'm not surprised to hear him say that. I don't necessarily think he's saying it to take a swipe at Liverpool or anything, but just know, Joe, as much as you regret it, us fans regret that as well, mate. So, let's just call it quits on that one. Colin, I was only thinking about you yesterday, dude. Honestly, I was thinking I haven't seen my pal Colin in a while. I hope he's all right and I hope things are good. Yeah, nice to see you in, my man, and I'm all good. I hope you are as well. It's a pleasure to see you in again. Joe who? Exactly, Sir Goo. Exactly, Joe Cole. He's not even the best Cole. There you go. So, yeah, it was a weird one, but I don't think he said it to take a swipe at us, but, what does that say about him? He knew he was on the decline, so he came to Liverpool for a payday, pretty much. I think that says a lot more about Joe Cole than it does about Liverpool, but there we go. Yeah, let me just remove the arsehole in the chat. 1 second. There we go. Thank you very much for wasting my time with your stupid egg emojis, mate, but whatever. Joe Cole still played in Legends match. He's far from a legend, though. Far from a legend. Right, so I guess we got to talk about VAR, and we got to talk about mic'd up, and we got to talk about the conversations that took place between the officials, both the VAR officials, and then of course what was said by Michael Owen and Howard Webb. So let's first of all look at the breakdown of what was said during the incident of the handball that wasn't given for Liverpool. The handball that was a blatant handball, Odegaard handled it, the rest is history. But let's have a look at what was said there. So let me just get the transcript open here. Right, so this was the conversation. If you haven't heard it, go on to Sky Sports News, it's up there. So this is the transcript of the conversation between the VAR officials. So referee said, now on, no, his hand's on the floor, check possible penalty for handball. So firstly, his hand wasn't on the floor yet, but we'll get to that. So VAR 1 said, just give me your best view. All right, turn around again. VAR 2 came in to say, just going to look for another angle. VAR 1 then replied to go, yes, please. Can you just give me this in full speed? Full speed. Then he went on to say, yeah, I can show you a wider angle, full speed. Then he said, yeah, because it clearly hits his arm. That's not the point I'm looking at. Cool. Then he goes on to say, yeah, this is coming at full speed. Okay, thanks. Okay. VAR 1, thanks. Yeah, for me, Lee, I'm backing with live. He's fallen down. He's moving his arms towards his body. So check complete for me. VAR 2, yeah, from the brief look, off seat. Yeah, VAR 1 agreed. Check complete. Confirming decision. No penalty. So let me break that down for you. VAR 2 just admitted a brief view, he's not too fussed about it, so let's not give a penalty. But this nonsense of his arm was on the floor, no it wasn't. He was going towards the floor, but by the time he'd handled the ball and moved it towards him, his arm wasn't on the floor yet, lad, so that's a lie. Secondly, what does it matter if he's moving his arms towards his body? And let me give you some context to this. Let's say I'm on a football pitch. Can I do this when someone takes a penalty, and as long as I do that, it's no penalty because I'm bringing my arms towards my body? Do you get where I'm coming from? It's a nonsense and it has no part to play in the rules of football. So I can do this, but as long as when the ball's hitting my hand, I'm bringing my hand slowly inwards? Not really right, lads, is it? And then eventually, after all of this, and by the way, Michael Owen is about as useful as, I don't know, an ashtray on a motorbike. I don't know why he fronts these shows. He's the most monotonous, dull, and he never pushes back. I think that was a penalty, Howard. Yes, because it was a penalty, Michael. And Howard Webb belatedly admits it's a penalty and that they got it wrong. Yes, they did get it wrong, Howard. Very, very, very wrong. And again, we have to just suck it up, right? We have to just accept it. No, Howard, we get shafted week after week, time after time. And these are supposed to be the improved officials. Remember, because new things were implemented after Spurs, after they, whoopsies, forgot to give us a goal against Spurs because they didn't know what they were looking at, because they thought they were looking to confirm it wasn't offside. So after all of that hoopla, and they go back to the drawing board, and they talk to the officials, and they break everything down and streamline it so these mistakes aren't made again, we get VAR number 2 saying, yeah, from the brief look I had, that sound, lads. No, it's not. It was a blatant handball. Anybody who's ever played football knows it's a handball. Anybody who's come down from planet Zog knows it's a handball. So what good is it to us? Because we're stuck in a title race with these also-rans in Arsenal. And the 2 times we played London clubs, one in London, shafted by another title contender, Spurs, let me think about that, smells fishy. Then we play Arsenal at home, blatant penalty. And from the moment the ref said his arm's on the floor to the other Ramadan in VAR saying he's bringing his arm towards his body, none of that makes a world of difference. He wasn't breaking his fall. He used his arm to manipulate the ball into a position that took it away from our player. How on earth that's acceptable to anybody, no matter who you support? It is disgraceful. When are we going to say enough is enough? When are football fans going to come together and say these idiots are just not fit for purpose? It isn't the technology. It's the people that just refuse to do their job properly. It's got nothing to do with technology failing or interpretation. It's laziness. The very least that should have been done there is ref sent to the monitor to look at it with a better view and then remake his mind up. If he still thinks hand on the floor, no penalty, at least he's looked at it. It's still a wrong decision, but at least he's looked at it. For them to so casually, potentially throw away points that could win us a league title or get us a Champions League place, it just felt really too quick. And they were too eager to just brush it off. I don't know if you guys got that from how you interpreted the audio and the transcript. But for me, nothing about that screamed professionalism. Nothing. Now you juxtapose that with the referees, the video referees in rugby, and you will see professionalism at work. What we get is, well, basically jobs for the boys. And nobody's able to be called out. And no punishments are there. Even though these decisions can change the course of a club's season, or their futures, or their relegation, or their qualification for Europe. Apologies aren't enough. Like I say to my kids, an apology is okay the first and second time. But if you don't change your attitude or how you go about something, if you don't learn from the mistakes, you have a right to then ask, are these mistakes? Or is this just a pattern of who you are and the way you think? Because if you're not open to the correction that you're being given, apologies are worthless. I hope you agree with me on that one. I'm not seeing progression. I'm not seeing them getting better. It's worrying because we'll talk corruption as football fans, but at the very least, it's ineptitude and it's a failure to do their job properly with the tools that are at their disposal. Nowhere in the laws of the game does it talk about bringing your arm closer to your body and because the arm's going in that direction, it's not a penalty. That's farcical. The referee ruled it out very quickly because he thought Odegaard's hand was on the floor and it was breaking his fall. And that part is understandable. I do have some sympathy for the ref in that regard. But that's where VAR is supposed to come in and go, hang on a minute here, ref. His arm wasn't actually breaking his fall. The movement of the arm on the ground was to benefit himself and the position of the football. And in doing that, it stopped the goal scoring opportunity for Liverpool. I think you got to have a look at this one again, mate. Because we're all understanding. We all agree that referees see things like that. And they've a split second. And that's what this system's for. To give them the help that they need. Because we're all human. We all know we can't make the right decision 100% of the time in a fraction of a second. So I'm open to the referee's part. I have no issues with that. But I have massive issues when it comes to VAR and the officials not giving the ref the information he needs to make an informed decision. So that, for me, it was just farcical. And I didn't even watch the rest of the show, and I don't really care what else they spoke about. Because for me, every time they do this, it just ends up the same thing. Just more, oh well, lessons to be learned, sure, let's move on, nothing to see here. No, I'm sorry. If I don't see Liverpool winning a league because we lose it by a point or two, how many of these do we have to put up with before we start to think, are these officials really having too big of an impact on the outcome of a season compared to the managers and players, the actual superstars, the actual people that should be having a say in what happens. I think it's gone beyond mistakes now. It's gone beyond what's acceptable. And we haven't even spoken about the red cards. I know you guys in the chat are giving me lots of other bits and pieces that you remember that's happened. And like, look, let me say this as well to anybody watching this. I'm not thinking this is a Liverpool only problem. I'm not for 1 second trying to suggest that it's only Liverpool that get these harsh calls. Look at Wolves, many of them. And I've seen lots of them for every club. But that doesn't make it alright, does it? The fact that crap decisions happen to everyone. Where would we accept this in life and any other business? You know? Would you, if you rang up your car insurance company and go, my premium went up because you've logged a claim that I didn't make. And they went, oh, that was a mistake. But don't worry, Mr. Houlden. We've also made that mistake with 500 other clients whose prices were the wrong way around. Does that make you feel any better? No, it doesn't. It doesn't make me feel any better. Not at all. So what would make me feel better? Learning from the mistake and it not happening to the other 499 people. It's mad. But the good news is, and here's the good news, folks, with regard to the world of football. Richard Masters, the Premier League CEO, has admitted that a date has been set for the Manchester City hearing. What was that you said? What is the date? We're not allowed to know. That's the transparency that you get in football. The date's been set for the trial and the hearing. No problem, Mr. Masters. When might that hearing be? Can't say. Why can't you say, Richard? Why can't you say? Why can't you tell the world, you know, the stakeholders in the game, when this hearing is supposed to take place? What's the big secret? Why aren't we allowed to know? Where's the transparency? Football's one of the few sports that seems to be afraid of transparency. In any other walk of life, we demand it from our politicians. We might not always get it. We demand it from, I don't know, companies you ring up. For instance, I rang up Sky this week to moan about my bill. I felt like something was the wrong price. So you know what they did? They listened into the call, figured out I was right, they'd made a mistake, and they corrected it. And that's all I ever asked for them. So fair play on that. But where's the transparency here? Imagine I rang Sky up and said, lads, I was told something on a call. The pricing has actually been different. And they go, yeah, we listened to it. Well, what was the outcome? Can't tell you. Why can't you tell me? Transparent, can't secret. Not allowed to tell you. Like, we know what happened, but we're not allowed to tell you. It's comical. It's comical. And it only leads to us all going, well, something dodgy's going on here then. Because if they're already hiding when they're in court, and they have, just look at the Daily Mail investigation, what they had to go through to find out whether the hearing was actually taking place. Every turn. So, you see Manchester City fans going, and I seen this yesterday. Pep Guardiola has constantly said he wants this to be dealt with quickly. Manchester City have constantly said they want this resolved quickly. Yeah, but you're doing everything to drag it out. You're not opening up the books. You're making it very difficult to get the information. So, if you wanted this dealt with quickly, then open up. Madness. Madness. So, what do we all think about that? What do you guys think about the fact that they know when the date is for the hearing, but nobody else is allowed to know? Not even the government, because that's who he was sitting in front of when he was talking Richard Masters. Mental. Right, so apologies about that rant or segment, but I needed to get that off my chest. And now I want to see what you guys think about it. It'll be when Pep leaves in 2025. So there is a lot of people, Giovanni, that seem to feel that way, mate. That City are dragging this out until they're caught and then they'll just move on to something else. Or Pep will piss off and have another job somewhere and the owners of City will do something else. It's madness. No date seems sus, mate. Keep speaking the truth. Thank you, Paul. And I appreciate that. Because I know a lot of people are sick of me talking about Manchester City. I get it. I know. I take no pleasure from doing it. But so it's if it smells like a duck, it quacks like a duck, and it walks like a duck. Do you know what I mean? Quack. The Premier League will lose its credibility, apparently. Well, yes, it will. I don't understand, like, why aren't we able to hear the audio of the VARs? What's wrong with that Oh, here's one for you, by the way. I couldn't believe I read this yesterday. So up in Scotland, up in the SPL, their referees are open to the idea of the VAR audio being released if, are you ready for this part? If there's an increase in their pay. You what now? You're not doing any more work here, fellas. You're already being paid for the job, but they want more money just for the audio being released. Why? Is it like you want danger money because everyone's going to suddenly know how crap at your job you are? Or the state of the communication between you and the VAR officials? You couldn't make this stuff up. And look, it's on Sky. I'm sure I took a screenshot of it. Go to yesterday on Sky. I'm going to try and do this right now on stream so people don't think I'm talking out my backside. I'm going to go on to yesterday's paper talk on Sky and see if I can find this exact story from Scotland. 1 second. Right. You ready? So, Scottish Sun. Now, granted, I don't know if that's affiliated to the English Sun. I don't know, so don't come at me on that one. I'm just reading this from Sky. Scotland's ref could back calls for the release of VAR audio if it means they get a wage rise. Craig, keep rambling on about City all you want. It needs to be called out. Well, I've been banging this drum for a long time, mate. And people have called me bitter. People have called me obsessed. I'm not. I have no problem admitting when we're beaten by somebody who's playing fairly. Masters was at the very least surreptitious. I love that word, mate. Well played. Surreptitious. Bit like saying I'll show you my work only if you give me a company car. Yeah, exactly. This involves no extra work for the referees, by the way, at all. It's like, yeah, you can release the audio if I get more. It's not image rights, dickheads. You know what I mean? You're not players here. Nobody's trying to make money off your image. We're just trying to make the game more transparent. So, you know, the people who actually pay to watch football, whether it be at games or in a home, can hear these conversations. Anyway, let's move on to other topics to talk about tonight, because there is actually some fun stuff to discuss rather than moaning about it. So let's give you some good news. I'm sure you've probably seen this, but if you haven't, Andy Robertson has posted a nice little update from him training in Dubai, where he's gone through some bits and pieces on the training ground, and he's put up a post to say a good week away. So the good news from this is it looks like at least Andy Robertson could be headed towards being back soon. A report by the Daily Mail claimed Robbo's progressing well and is on track to be back in training at the end of this month, or at the very latest at the start of next month. So good on that one. Good news on Robbo. And a lot of people have been asking for Robbo updates and stuff. We didn't really have any, and we won't make stuff up. But yeah, that's good news. So well done, Robbo. And I hope that he continues to progress and we get him back soon. Billy Comedio has been recalled from his loan. So he was recalled by Liverpool from his loan spell at USL Dunkirk, who I think are a French second tier side. Reece Williams went on loan today as well. We spoke about that. He's gone on loan for the remainder of the season to Port Vale. So keep an eye on him if you're interested in tracking some Liverpool players. I think with Williams, we need to get to a point where we're just like, he's not going to make it. Because look at where he's gone on loan. When he's gone on loan, it's been to lower level teams consistently, and he's never pulled up any trees there. So I think we need to just get to the point where at the end of the season, Reece Williams gets to move on with his career and establish himself somewhere. Whether it is League 1 or League 2, so be it. I don't know why we're hoarding these young players if it's very clear that there's not going to be a pathway for them. And with Reece Williams, he's just not going to get to that level consistently. And I think we should move him on. what was the other one that I've seen today? So, have you guys seen, and I don't know much about this kid, but his name's been linked with us for a little while, Sonko. Mamadou Sonko from, oh God, what's the name of this team? I don't even know. What's the name of this team? I think it's a Norwegian team. Is it Hacken? I don't know. Liverpool are making strong moves to acquire at BK Hackenall FCL's Mamadou Sonko. Officials from the Premier League side and the other two teams have made trips to keep an eye on him. Apparently he scored 4 goals in 13 or something like that. He's only 18 years of age. I don't know anything about him, but I know you guys would, so I wanted to bring it to the chat and see what you guys think. Sonko's very good, said Classy. Any Mbappe news? Come on now. As if I'm going to come on here and not talk about Mbappe at some point and have a bit of news. Come on now. You know me better than that. We'll get to Mbappe soon, don't you worry. Swedish, there you go. Thank you, mate. So yeah, look, these are the type of players I love seeing Liverpool into. You know, young up-and-coming prospects who won't take away too much of the transfer budget but have potential. So these make sense to me when I see these type of links. Craig, what do you think of the young right back from Hearts we've been linked with? I don't know who either they are. Isaac Cox? No idea. Never heard of him. Don't know anything about him. Yeah, no, I was going to move on to talk about link to a fullback, but it wasn't that person, Kevin. So I'm sorry I couldn't give you a better answer, mate. I'm just being really honest. I don't watch any Scottish football and don't really keep track of who's coming through up there. But I'll try and look into it. So there's been another link today for Liverpool, and not just Liverpool, with it's Arsenal and Liverpool are linked with Ray and AIT-NOURI from Wolves. And they say that Wolves are holding out for about 50 million quid. But you know what surprised me on this one? I didn't realise he was only 22. I don't know why. Maybe because he looks a little bit older. But I thought AIT-NOURI was about 25, 26. So yeah, they say Wolves have priced the 22-year-old at around £50 million. They don't want to lose him to a Premier League rival. And the report goes on to say that the summer is more likely for a player who they signed from Angers in 2021. So, again, I think the summer is a sensible time for Liverpool to look at things in a bigger picture. Because right now, I don't know if we need a right back because of Bradley and obviously Ramsey and their futures. And Gomez being freed up when Robbo and Costas come back. So, for this one, I feel like it's okay to push and look towards the summer because right now, I think the lads deserve a chance to show what they can do, particularly Bradley. You know, if he can continue on the short trajectory that he's been on, brilliant. But AIT-NOURI is, I wouldn't mind Liverpool looking at him in the summer if we need a fullback, because I do think he's certainly good enough. Craig, did you see what, that was a bait name? No, okay. It could be Isaac Cox. I mean, if it's a bait name, it could be better. So what I mean, what about I love or I'm all about or I can't get enough of? I feel like there's a lot better if that's a bait name than that. Or I suck, maybe. Maybe that's what he was hoping I would say, like I suck Cox. But Isaac doesn't do it, does it? It's not even a good bait name. Like if you want me to say that I suck, just ask, dude, if that gets you off or that's, you know, if that does it for you, no problem. But cheers for the £5. See, this is where I just take things at face value again. I assume that people are inherently good and that they don't come in for weird little kicks. But look, if you want to get kinky, dude, I can set up an OnlyFans and we can sort this shit out. You know what I mean? You know, I'll do anything for money, me. As long as it's, you know, artistic and merits it. How many goals do you think Darwin will score in the second half of the season? If he gets to 20 in all competitions, that'll be a really good campaign for me. Yeah. But I I know people get obsessed about who scores the goals, but maybe I'm weird, but I've never really cared who scores the goals as long as we're winning. You know, if Mo scores every one of them, brilliant. If Darwin scores every one of them, brilliant. As long as the ball's going in the net and it's going in the net more times for us than it is for them, I'm all good. Yeah, just look, for me, the real stat around Darwin is that when he plays, our results are better. And, you know, you can't deny that. So let's just keep playing him. Right, another link, 1 second. So much news today. Where's this one? My God, there's a lot of stories today. COLWILL, yeah, I knew there was another one. Levi COLWILL. Really interesting points being raised here. Graham Bailey and a couple of others, HITC, have said Liverpool are keeping an eye on Levi COLWILL situation. And look, initially you think to yourself, well, hang on a minute. He signed a new contract with Chelsea. That kind of put that to bed in the summer. And that might be true. But also, their captain is Conor Gallagher and he's one of their better midfielders and they're talking about selling him. So, I guess Liverpool's viewpoint is if Chelsea do need the wiggle room, then we're going to need to move on and put in a bid here. Because if Chelsea, like I said at the very start of this stream when I was looking at how FSG's ways might actually start to pay off now, well, if Chelsea do need to free up money because they want to spend it elsewhere, then maybe Liverpool should be looking to at least put forward an offer to see if there's any chance of getting COLWILL. Because I tell you what, if our defenders in the future, when Verge hangs up his boots in 3-4 years time or whatever, if we ended up with COLWILL, Kanade, Kwanzaa and Gomez then filling in the Verge part at 29 or so, whatever he'd be then, that's not too shabby. So I like to think in here that basically the long and short of this is, the thought process is if they're willing to listen to offers for Gallagher and he's an academy product because that's, you know, that gives them the most profit margin, then why don't we test the waters with Levi COLWILL? Because he's brilliant. And I said to you guys last summer he'd be right up there as my number one target. So Mark said they were both bait names. One is an abuser. Well, as somebody whose mother was sexually assaulted, mate, it makes me very disappointed that somebody would try to bait me or anybody with that. But look, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Lesson learned. We move on. And I'm glad that there are good people like Mark and others who are looking out for me in the chat to let me know. Because I do take everyone's post to face value. Especially if it's a super chat. You know, if somebody gives up their money, I want to make sure that I interact with them to say thank you. But look, if people bait you and I fall for it, I don't really care. It doesn't embarrass me at all. But it's just a weird mindset for people to be in. Anyway, we move. The way FSG have been frugal could help us financially in the transfer market. Yes, particularly if the, you know, FFP is being enforced in the Premier League. It's yeah, it might actually work for us. But also, we have to then do what we've just spoke about, right? We have to actually lean on other clubs who are having financial issues. And if Chelsea need to free up money for other stuff, or Newcastle need to do it, and there's a player you want at these clubs, then do it. That's what being the big boy is. You get to be the bully. You get to lean on and show your financial prowess. In other words, what's the point of all the hard work? Of being clever, unless when you need to act, you've got the ability to do it. Mbappe. Yeah, we're talking about Mbappe. So, I have a question. How can PSG, and this goes back to Russell and the guys' conversation earlier on, how can PSG be willing to offer him €100 million a season and we're all just sitting here going, yeah, that's alright, they can afford that? How? I don't get this. Like, and I don't get this from the context. Let me read it out to you and that'll probably make a bit more sense. Hang on, bear with me. Where's this piece that I was reading from earlier on? Where are you? Where are you, Killian? Where's the article on Mbappe? Right, here we go. So, I'm going to read this out to you in its entirety. It says, according to RMC sport journalist Daniel Riolo, Kylian Mbappe has been offered an unmatchable deal worth €100 million a year if he renews his contract at PSG. Riolo went on to say, on one hand, we have an offer for him to extend, which is ancient Rome, ancient Greece, and the pyramids of Egypt given to a player, something never seen before, which will far exceed €100 million per season, something that no club will ever be able to match. What is being offered to Mbappe by PSG is incredible. It will be advantageous for his brother, for the family, for everyone. The player's agency, the mother wants to set up. Honestly, it's incredible stuff. On the other side, we have something which is, I was going to say normal, to say that is normal about Real Madrid offering a salary of about 30 million a year, and maybe a little more, and he's not the king of the club. Basically, we bring him back down to earth. So, my point here is, how can that... I'm playing guy, why are you spamming Muskrat, mate? Do you not understand what the Muskrat thing is for? Don't make me take it away, bud. Anyway, my point here is, how is it that they say only PSG, of all the clubs in world football, no matter what stage they're at of their ownership or where they are, only PSG could offer this to Kylian Mbappe? Why is that? The rational answer is because it's not money they're generating. It's money coming from Qatar. And it's money that, once again, will show that FFP in Europe has zero teeth. So I do understand that PSG have moved on some big hitters and heavy earners. I understand that. But they still have a lot of big hitters and heavy earners at the club. And if you're going to offer Kylian Mbappe 100 million, no, sorry, an offer which will far exceed €100 million a year, why can Real Madrid or Manchester United or Liverpool or Arsenal or Bayern Munich or any of the other actual big clubs in world football afford that? Because let's look at it factually. TV deal in France? Nothing. Pittance. Have they won the Champions League? So they don't really have the global following. So how can they do it? The answer is, and I think we all know this, they can't. They can only do it if they're propped up by Qatar. So at what point is FFP going to actually do something? Or do we have to continue to become a rich country's plaything? Football just be taken over and bastardised by people who don't have to worry about breaking even. It's worrying because, remember, we're dealing with a club here who were founded in the 70s, who don't have a European Cup to their name, who have already spunked years worth of money at the wall. Brian Mbappe, bringing in Messi, Donnarumma, all these other, Neymar, all these other players that were there. There's no way this is legit in my eyes. No way. It's again just them feeling like they can do what they want. I don't get it. I feel like FFP doesn't affect some clubs enough, cough, cough, Man City. Also, look, sometimes you have to look at them slightly differently, right? So we know what happened with Man City and UEFA. There was the time-barred stuff, and if you look into the Court of Arbitration for Sport ruling, there's a lot of questions about that as well. But in the Premier League now, there's the profit and sustainability or profit and loss rules, which are showing that they have some teeth, potentially, and aren't time limited, and you know, people can be held to account for them. But UEFA need to up theirs if they really want the game to be sustainable. But here's the thing, can they really do that when they're under the guidance of FIFA, who are selling their soul to the highest bidders and send them World Cups wherever the most money is? It just makes you question, who gave these people the right to control the sport and do it for their own benefit and not what's best for the sport? Again, it's just like the rules don't apply to certain people. And I don't like that in life. I don't like they're doing different rules or the playing pitch different. And they're the things in life that make me speak up and shout out, because I found it in this industry. I felt like there's a closed off part, and there's certain people in my industry that keep certain things from within a certain group and work hard to make sure that others don't get a chance to benefit and blossom. And then there's other people who just go about their own business. And I'm fed up of seeing football clubs like Real Madrid or Manchester City or PSG seemingly never have to worry about football finances, or always finding a way to spend more money. We are at the richest league in the world, with the biggest TV rights in the world, globally and domestically. And if the clubs in our league can't do it, how are we supposed to believe that everybody else can do it and balance the books? Sure, it feels to all of us that they're turning a blind eye, right? And again, look at the Super League stuff. Who was a very good little boy and didn't run off to join the Super League? That's right, the president of Paris Saint-Germain. What has happened since he didn't run off to join the Super League? Well, he's been given a pretty cushy job, hasn't he? At the European Clubs Association as their chairman. Huh. Why didn't they join the Super League? Well, because they don't need the money. That's why they didn't join the Super League. Because look at the clubs that were running to the Super League and the founders of it. Most of them had financial stresses. PSG don't need to worry about that because they have never-ending Qatar money. So again, all of this stuff stinks to high heaven. But we're being told nothing to see here and talk to you like we're idiots. Hey Craig, I really want Mark Gay. I rate him highly. Stop baiting me with your names. Gay isn't a name. Nah, he's a good player, and I rate him highly as well. I'd seen, weirdly, when I'd seen other clubs and their fans talk about centre-backs, like, I think I was talking to Lee Gunner, and they were talking about Arsenal's hunt for a centre-back, and they were really wanting Anderson from Crystal Palace. And I was like, you're looking at the wrong centre-back, dude. He's not the best at Crystal Palace. So yeah, I like Mark Gay as well, and we have been linked to him for, I guess, since last summer. Nothing really happened there. And if we were to go in from, I think it would have to be the summer, Charlie. PSG's a dusty tin pot club. Yeah. Who show up at people's gaffs if they're not happy. Hi, Neymar. It's weird. Like, Messi couldn't get out of Paris quick enough. And it feels to me like they're just going to keep guilt-tripping Mbappe. And he's just going to keep saying, hang on, pretend we don't want to, we're leaving. Here comes the lorry. All the money. Mum, we're leaving. Talk to Real Madrid a bit more. They're going to reverse up another truckload of cash. Has he mentioned COLWILL? Yes, he has. You could address that directly to me, Ethan, and I could try to answer you, bud. Yeah, we spoke about COLWILL, mate. And the kind of... The way I looked at it was... The premise of the articles, I think, is spot on. If Chelsea are willing to listen to offers for... what's his name? Gallagher, who's the captain and another homegrown product. Why not test the waters for COLWILL? I know he signed a new contract last year, but yeah, let's test it. If he's top of Klopp's list, if he's someone that Klopp really wants, and let's be honest, I mean, somebody said COLWILL is meh. No, he's not. COLWILL's brilliant. And one of these players that, again, when he comes into a team with the right manager, the right environment, and he gets belief, I think he'll be absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, test it. Go and exactly, like, we might as well use the fact that we have wiggle room in the financial budgets. So yeah, lean on clubs that are struggling. Do it. That's what business is all about. And I hope that we do go down that route. Look, what can Chelsea say? No. Fair enough. If the answer's no, the answer's no. But ask. Craig, FFP is becoming a tool for corrupt teams at the end and small teams at the bottom. Well, look, it definitely... Look, they try to, again, talk to us like we're idiots, right? So everybody will go, well, Nottingham Forest and Everton are being punished. What about Chelsea? Or, excuse me, what about Man City? And the answer is, oh, Manchester City's far more complex. Manchester City's far more tough. Manchester City's a completely different thing. Granted, it is a different thing. But also, 6 years. So, we get it's complicated, but ultimately, do something. You know, because it can't go on forever. We can't sit here watching them lift trophies and being lauded in the media and being told how whoopity-doo brilliant they are and how Pep's a genius and Haaland's a god and De Bruyne is the best thing to ever come to football, knowing deep down that all of this was built on what we believe as the public is a very, very, very dubious foundation with suspect finances, sponsorship deals, companies that we don't even know if they really exist properly. But we just have to keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting while another season goes by and another trophy's lifted by Guardiola and City. And what happens in this time, like I say all the time, is people become desensitized. People just go, well, City are now a big club. City are now established, and I'm sure City probably are breaking even now. But you can't ignore how you got to now. It's like somebody robbing a bank to start a business and that business doing well. And we're supposed to just ignore the part where the first money came from. The part that allowed you to win stuff, to generate that money, to be attractive to players, to bring you in a Pep Guardiola. Everything that came before that is the problem. So the longer it drags on, the more desensitized people become and accept City are a club now at the top table. We shouldn't accept it because we know how they got there. Or at least we believe we know how they got there. The pundits are blind to City's ways. They either don't care or they're being told not to speak up about it because, it's not their platform. So if you've got Neville or Carragher or Redknapp or Mika Richards or whatever, there will be things they're told not to talk about. That's life. But that's where fan channels come in or fan media, whatever you want to call it. We can say what they can't say. We have to be careful, of course. We can't say anything that leaves us open to being taken to court, but we can give an opinion. And my opinion has always been that this stinks to high heaven. And I think most people believe that. And as I keep saying, the longer it goes on, the more it becomes the norm. And it isn't the norm. It should never be the norm. I see Webb has admitted we should have had a penalty against the Gooners. Yeah. Fat lot of good that is to us, by the way. And we've admitted he should have had a goal against Spurs. Well, can we have a game played again then? Look at them. Gobshites think they can get a game played again. Stay to them. Okay, fair enough. But lessons have been learned, yeah? New process put in place for VAR. No more of this type of stuff. Oh, yeah, we've retrained. Oh, God, yeah. Cool. Fast forward. Why wasn't that a penalty? Well, his arm was breaking the fall. Yeah, cool story, bro. But it wasn't. He's moving his arm towards his body. Right, where does that say that in the rules then? So you just trying to justify why the blatant penalty wasn't a penalty and the mental gymnastics you're doing, again, isn't going to help us, is it? Or anybody. So we, like we did with the Super League, the footballing public, are going to have to ramp it up. Because the PGMOL and their band of merry morons are just not fit for purpose. Whether it's willfully stupid, whether it's inherent biases, whether it's hiding behind the rules. I wish I had something in my life that I could say was my version of clear and obvious. Sorry, Sabrina. I'm sorry I shagged your woman. It wasn't clear and obvious to me that I shouldn't have stuck my penis in her. I'm really sorry. I didn't know. Whoopsies, my bad. I didn't know what the threshold was in our marriage for cheating. Sorry. Do you think I get away with that? Do you think you get away with that in your job? No, of course you wouldn't. But again, these feckers think they're untouchable. They are like politicians. They work for the public. They work for us. They work for the fans that pay the money, that generate the television revenues, that go to games, that buy the merchandise, that do all of this stuff. They need reminding of that every now and again. When I see Howard Webb feet up in Old Trafford, lashing into the corporate hospitality, that doesn't sit well with me. The Turkish Football Federation just automated an offside system. It works perfectly. Yeah, but Turkish football is also a bit of a mess. Because I don't know if you've seen this particular nugget coming out of Turkey, but one of the club's owners or presidents refused to talk to an agent because he was black. So I'm not ready yet to just hold up that as a beacon of perfection, but I get where you're going with the automated system. The technology exists, but again, you got to ask yourself, why don't we want it implemented? Why don't we want transparency of audio? Why don't we want a system that removes human error or the potential of human error? I think these are fair questions that we, the footballing public, want answered. What's clear and obvious, and who made that a thing? Why did this suddenly become the get out of jail free card for every referee that makes a mistake or a decision that they want to justify why they didn't get it correct? It's not right. It's not good enough. It's not acceptable. The balls used in England don't work with that system. You're telling me stuff I've already told you, mate. And the balls don't work isn't actually the correct story either. So that's a half-truth. The problem is the Nike football hasn't been tested enough. It's not that it doesn't work. It's that it hasn't been tested enough with the system. But that could have been done if they wanted to implement the system. It's like with VAR in general. We were a year behind most of Europe for that because they wanted to sort out the flaws of it. Now, sorry for laughing at this, but does any of us feel like that extra year they spent watching and observing other leagues, do we feel like we've seen the benefit of that? Do we feel like that they did learn their lessons and see what other leagues are doing wrong? Because I certainly don't. I feel like this thing is the biggest talking point in football every single goddamn week. When it's not the players and the coaches and the genius and the beauty of the game. It's why did this little mini god dictate an outcome of a game of football? How is that allowed to happen? Constantly. And from our perspective, there's more questions than answers as football fans. Not even from a Liverpool standpoint. Audio will make them look even worse. That's what most of us probably feel, right? That they don't want to hear the audio because it might make them look bad. Well, then you need to be better. Simple as. This coming from Adam Crafton said, exclusive. Newcastle chair Yasser Al-Rumayyan faces a $74 million lawsuit for allegedly having carried out the instructions of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman with malicious intent of harming, silencing and ultimately destroying family of Saudi ex-intelligence chief. But, you know, okay to own a football club in England. Fit and proper persons test, no bother. Is anybody else getting sick of people twerking for money and morality going out the window for money? The whole world at the minute feels very grubby around sport. It feels like everything's up for sale. Doesn't matter what it is, we'll find a way to justify removing it and bringing it off somewhere else. Or accepting all this money and saying it's good for sports and it's good for... Like, is it? Like, we were led to believe that, and there was a statement put out about this, that the reason that Saudi Arabia were investing so heavily in sport and in football was because they have a young population, some of which are overweight. They want to encourage sport, and football is idolised and loved in the country. And I'd like that to be true. But then why is there 300 people at a game of football at the top tier? Why are people leaving the league? Because maybe it isn't what they thought. It's all grubby and it's all bullshit. And if you say things enough times, maybe people start believing it. It's like all the fights and people showing up at the fights. Why is Ronaldo and Tyson and Holyfield and all these other people there? It's not because they love it. It's because they're being fucking paid to be there. And most people will do and say anything if they're paid for it. Look at around the World Cup. How many of the people are being paid to post positively about the World Cup and their experiences? Well, if it's that good, and it might well have been, should you need to pay them to do it? Shouldn't they be just saying, wow, this is brilliant. People are lovely. The stadiums are amazing. The food's been top notch. Why do they need to pay people to paint a picture that probably isn't right? Remember to stay positive and keep smiling. I try, mate, but there's a lot of stuff that I just don't like about the modern world and sport, and I feel like everybody that's responsible for looking after and maintaining these institutions ultimately end up being corrupted by their own greed. And they need reminding, whether it's FIFA, UEFA, or the Premier League, exactly who owns the sport. The people. The people that pay for it. The people that kick the ball around in the parks at the weekend, playing non-league. The people that make the structure and the pyramid of football. Again, sorry Craig, I'm watching a movie and I'm late. What's happened? Well, rewind, Sarah, my friend, when you get a chance. This period feels so weird. I feel like we're in an international break. Yeah. Does anybody else feel like that? Because it is weird, Arian. And then you look and you see, well, no, there's actually games going on right now in the Premier League this week, I mean. But it is understandable. So I'd rather the the winter break is done the way they've done it. I actually like the way the Premier League have done it. That half the teams play one week and half the teams play the next week. I think that's good. Because, Germany closed down fully for a few weeks or whatever. I like this way. But when it's the week that your team isn't playing, it feels like a long time between games. Núñez needs to get a goal on Sunday. As long as we finish the game with 3 points, I'm sure we'll have talking points from the game. And if somebody misses sitters, fair enough. But I just think about Liverpool need to win the games every week. And as I keep saying, I don't mind who scores the goals as long as someone's doing it. Do you think this break will make us lose momentum? Said Craig Gatland. I actually feel like somebody said yesterday the break maybe came at a good time for us, and I think it has, because it gives us another step closer to Robbo and Costas being back. And with the injury for Trent just before the break, again, 11 days of no football in that 3-week period, I feel like there are some benefits for us at this moment. Whilst you're right, we were in a decent rhythm of picking up points, but it's also a step closer to Mo being back and Watoro being back from their respective competitions. So, actually, a few shocks in the AFCON early doors, right? A few really surprise results popping up early in that competition. Sports washing along with sports betting, loads of it, money at stake, just follow the money, it never lies. So, I'm a gambler. I put bets on sport quite a bit, but I do still find it all grubby, I have to admit. Even though I bet, and I bet multiple times a week, I find it very off-putting when I'm watching boxing or something, and particularly with boxing, if I'm being honest. You'll have an ad, and it'll like maybe a 30-second ad, and they'll cram in at least 2 sports betting ads in there. And it's always in your face, like, va-vum. But I've a genuine question for anybody in the chat that bets. Because I've asked my wife this and I've asked other people this. And have you ever been influenced by a betting ad? And I mean, have you ever looked at an ad on the TV and thought, well, I wasn't going to have a bet, but this particular ad has made... I don't think I ever have. Particularly, like, I'll look at an ad on TV for a car or for a food, and I'll go, oh, that's a good offer. I'm going to go get me a Big Mac. Or, Jesus, the financing on that car looks all right. Might think about changing the car. But I've never looked at it, even though I am a bettor. I've never looked at a betting ad and it made me want, it just annoys me when I watch them. Because ultimately, I'm somebody that shops around with my betting. And wherever the best odds for what I want to do are, that's where my money goes. So I do wonder who it's catching. And is it just at the point where it's just a nuisance to everybody? And as I say that as somebody who bets. Speaking of gambling, my friend bet $200 on somebody to get a certain score in an American football game. It hit and he made $900. Boom. Well in. Never get sick of hearing people winning money, mate. Absolutely love to hear it. I don't think I've ever had that experience from a betting ad. I mean, maybe horse races. Yeah, see, even the offers are never ones that would tempt me in. I don't understand the point of betting ads. They're just annoying. So do you know what I like? I like, and this is just me, you know, if you're listening to a podcast and they're talking about a game, I like those little betting interactions where they're already talking about something and they go, by the way, if you fancy Nunes to score this week, you can get it at blah, blah, blah. That feels more natural to me, you know? Because whether we want to admit it or not, sports and betting, they do kind of go hand in hand for a lot of people. And I feel like that's a far less in-your-face, blunt message. And I think it's a good way to... And maybe that's just marketing in general. I find that if stuff's put into a general environment that you're watching, I find it easier to digest it. Difference is you're not addicted to gambling, you numpty. Are you talking to me? Well, you don't know if I'm addicted to it or not, do you? So, to give you a comparison, my parents were alcoholics. Both of them. So was my grandfather. But I see ads for drink all the time. Does that mean that I have a right to go around shouting at the drinks companies? I mean, your thought process is very corrupted there. I don't understand why saying that I don't think ads are effective correlates to it's only because I don't have a gambling problem. That's just not a joined up way of thinking, dude. And also, who you think you're calling a numpty? Sorry, just got to go back here for a sec. What's this? Sorry. Already cheesy in my head, but gonna say it anyway. I'm betting this £10 that you'll keep making great content. Well, that's a bet you're gonna win, Joe. Well in, mate. That's a bet. It's not cheesy. I like it. It's an icebreaker, mate. Well played. And yes, you're right. I'm gonna keep making great content. I hope to anyway, buddy. So thank you. Philip said, so long as you bet what you can only afford to lose, everything is fine. Yeah, no, this wasn't meant to spark a conversation about the good and bad of betting. Sorry, I didn't mean it to come across that way. What I basically meant to say was, I think of all the advertising that we get put in our faces every day, I personally think betting is the least impactful of all of it. I think it's shit, basically, is what I'm getting at. You know, I think the marketing behind how they sell the product is nowhere near as good as other products. You know, I've watched the Coca-Cola ad and wanted a Coke. I've watched the McDonald's ad and wanted a Big Mac, but I've never felt that way. No cap, but what's a numpty? An idiot, a fool. Oh, I feel so good, mate. I feel so good you starting off that with no cap and me understanding what that means now because I'm hip. And then having to explain to a younger person what a numpty is. It's like reverse boomerism. I wish I had a bet on Bristol City knocking out West Ham. What way did that finish up? I seen it was 1-0 to Bristol City before I start streaming, but I didn't see how the game ended up. I love your videos on the Clips channel. Keep making those videos. So, actually, on the Clips channel, and thank you for segueing me in here. So, you may have noticed on the Clips channel, there are some clips that have funny edits, and there are some clips that are just genuinely a clip from what we do. So, I've asked the lads to differentiate those thumbnails for you on the Clips channel, so you'll know by a specific type of thumbnail if it's going to have the funny edits involved in it. So like there was one with John Cena popping up yesterday and a few other ones that Ben has done. So I've asked the lads to make sure that they differentiate them in case people want to just look at the funny ones or whatever. So yeah, please do keep checking it out because the Clips channel's absolutely flying at the minute. We had a 40,000 plus clip on there yesterday. And we done it basically because I'm aware that people sometimes like to join the lives. Some people like to know what's happened in their lives but don't have time to go through and watch a 90-minute stream or whatever. So we're trying to just use the Clips channel to give people shorter bursts of my stupidity. 3 minutes left, it's still 1-0. Boom. Sergio said I like the Clips. Thank you, mate. Any advice on this? I'm a Liverpool fan, but I do struggle to watch any Man City games and how the media sucks up to them even though they cheat. My advice on it is don't inflict yourself with anything that makes you angry. And I found the very same about Manchester City. I try not to watch Manchester City where possible. For all the reasons you've said above. Because I'm sick of hearing the hype about them. Because it boils my blood. And because I actually don't enjoy the style of football that Guardiola has them playing. I find it very robotic with no actual personality in it. Whereas, give me a Klopp or a De Zerbi or an Ange Postecoglou team, and even if I'm not watching Liverpool, I'll watch Spurs playing because I enjoy the breathless, balls out style of football. Do I prefer Nouri or COLWILL? Did you ever lose money from betting? Oh God, yes. Oh, I mean, the old saying, Sarah, that the bookie always wins. There's no truer word. Absolutely, I've lost money from betting. Oh, yeah, God, I wish I didn't. But yes, I have. Of course I have. But like everybody has said, I've always only used what I can afford. I've never done that. I've always had a budget and I've been quite good at sticking to it. But yeah, of course. Yeah. Just yesterday, mate, lost money. So yeah. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah, COLWILL or AIT-NOURI. I think COLWILL would be the one that I'd prefer. So COLWILL's got a bit of versatility as well, and maybe AIT-NOURI has. I could easily sit back and dream of a situation where Van Dijk hangs up his boots and we still have, COLWILL, Canade, maybe even Sepp van den Berg coming back in. Joe Gomez at 27, 28. Yeah, and other players coming through. And I'd love COLWILL to be part of that. Jarell Kwanzaa, yeah, exactly as in the chat. Sorry, I forgot Kwanzaa there. Yeah, Kwanzaa as well. Like, that would be great. Is spending on COLWILL worth it when we've a younger and arguably better centre-back in Kwanzaa? It's worth it, I think, Harry, if we need a centre-back. And I think we do. But I do get your point, because I've said here, would I spend €100 million on Antonio Silva? Maybe not. But with COLWILL, you would get the homegrown aspect as well. So if there's maybe a benefit to having to pay a little bit more, maybe that's it. You've got that homegrown player, which frees up another overseas spot in the squad. There's better value out there, I'll admit that, absolutely. There's some players out there you could get for cheaper. Sadly, I don't think either would join us, but hope I'm proven wrong. Well, look, I don't know if we need AIT-NOURI yet. Like, I think the fact that we have two young right-backs and Trent is still technically playing in a right-back, albeit a hybrid version of it, and Gomez is only not an option at right-back now because he has to cover at left-back. I don't know how immediate our need is there, but I do feel like we have a need at centre-back because let's say if something happened to Ibu or Verge and they were out for 3 months, your options then are immediately limited. And you're right on the edge of being able to cope then. So I wouldn't mind us bringing in a centre back. But let's say somebody like Lacroix at 25 million. I think that would be understandable. For example, we beat them by more goals. We didn't have the media publicity on how good we were, even though statistically, XG wise, we were good. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff in the media lately that hasn't been making sense. Like the Gary Neville stuff about Spurs, that still makes me chuckle. Trying to justify because Spurs drew at a shit United, that somehow they were better placed all of a sudden to finish above Arsenal and Liverpool, who've shown, in my opinion, a lot more consistency than Spurs. And Spurs have shown that they're absolutely reliant on a certain number of players, and Arsenal and Liverpool have deeper squads. There are certain things I hear and see these days that you ask yourself, is this someone's real opinion, or is there a bit of an agenda in there somewhere? Even if with Neville, perhaps it's, we know he doesn't like Liverpool. And I don't mean to downplay Spurs, because I love the way Ange Postecoglou was his team playing, and Spurs fans have every reason to be optimistic, but I guarantee you Neville wouldn't be putting $5,000 on that. Would you, Gary? Because I'll take that bet, Gary. I don't see a world where Spurs finish above Liverpool and or Arsenal, mate. And I'd certainly have no problem backing that up financially with the little I've got. But yeah, it's I don't believe he believes that. Neville changes his predictions hour by hour. Perhaps. I think I've gone from a point where I used to enjoy Gary Neville because I found him a breath of fresh air with the way punditry went with Monday Night Football and Carragher. Now I feel like he's getting a bit too preachy for my liking. West Ham got knocked out. Whoopsies. Have you seen the mic'd up of the Odegaard handball? Oh yes, Jacob. Again, for those who haven't, I've got the transcript, and it doesn't make for great reading, and it didn't make for great viewing to hear it back. And the process was just wrong on every level, wasn't it? You know, if you look through their reasoning for it and how rushed it all was, especially with the second VAR coming in and saying, oh yeah, after a quick look. Well, that's not good enough, a quick look that you agree. You've either made up your mind with all of the information or you haven't. I had a quick look. That's not filling me full of confidence. And there was just so many factual inaccuracies in all of it. He was moving his hand towards his body. Okay. But that just happened to be because he was dragging the ball in a certain way with his arm. Not because he was trying not to handle the ball with his arm. And then the part that really got me going was the ref at the start of it being so adamant that his hand was on the ground breaking his fall. And that seemingly being backed up by VAR, and it's just not true. Before the handball, he wasn't breaking his fall anywhere. The arm only went down to move the ball, and he didn't put his hand on his ground then to break his... It's just factually not right. And that's what worried me. Because I can absolutely understand and sympathise with a referee thinking he saw something that quickly. Absolutely. He's human. And you can understand with the arm being down that the ref thought he was breaking his fall. I'm absolutely open to that. But I'm not open to him not being corrected about that by the VAR. I have questions about Villa and FFP they've spent. So what you'll find with some of these clubs is their spending and success has been so recent and they haven't had time to catch back up yet. Because you're looking at 3-year cycles here. And then you've got the COVID allowances as well that were brought in. You know, the clubs were given a bit of a buffer there because obviously football clubs are in a tough spot when they had no fans coming in. So there's a lot of clubs that have, like Chelsea, for instance, they've basically leveraged a lot on getting back into Europe and getting that Champions League money. And we were told last summer, all of us, when you go back and watch any of these shows on Sky or listen to your podcast or whatever, we were all said that, yeah, Chelsea were doing this and they were betting they're going to be in Europe. and they were betting that they weren't going to have to add to the squad, that they've now established and built this young squad that they know might take time to gel, but they front loaded it. They've split it over 6, 7, 8 years with regards to the contracts and stuff. And nothing about that has been true. They're further away from European qualification unless they win the League Cup, perhaps. And even at that, UEFA's not much money. That's not going to really sort it out for Chelsea. Also, they still look to add players and buy players. You've seen them linked with Osimhen. You've seen them linked with everybody. How? At what point does it catch up? Do I think Jules Koundé could be a good signing? I personally love it. It's never happening. I don't think there'd be value in Jules Koundé, but from a footballing perspective, he's a decent defender, yes. Have you seen it looks like Xavi might be about to get the boot at Barcelona? Which, it kind of surprises me and it doesn't. Because they made such a big thing about bringing in Xavi and understanding the Barcelona way and playing a style of football, and now all of a sudden he's about to, it looks like, maybe get the boot. And also, where do we think Mourinho's next job is going to be? Because there's been a couple of shouts for English clubs. You know, I seen in our group chat earlier on, Adam was mentioning that some United fan channels and fan bases were talking about maybe Mourinho coming in back to United. Obviously Newcastle were another team that has been mentioned with Mourinho. And genuinely, I can understand both of those calls, whether I agree with them or not. I can understand why his name's been mentioned with those two. And he seemed genuinely upset, Mourinho. You seen the kind of teary-eyed look when he was leaving Roma. Yeah, I wonder where he will end up. Chelsea, said Eddie. Would that be his third time back around at Chelsea, right? I don't know. Oh, I don't know. Chelsea again? Well, do you know what? To be fair to Mourinho, I'd say you definitely get more out of the players so far than Pochettino has, and a lot quicker. At United, can I understand the United show? Maybe. If he was given more power than he had previously with regards to footballing decisions, maybe. You know, I certainly feel like he'd be better at ridding any of those, any of the player power out there a bit more, perhaps. But for me, if I'm Mourinho, and I know this job isn't available, I think the Newcastle one would be the one I'd be looking at. Because that feels like it's ripe for somebody like Mourinho to come in and boost the players that are already there. Be more attractive proposition maybe to prospective players coming in the future. And just making a statement about Newcastle arriving. And that seems a bit shallow, right? Because Eddie Howe's done a good job at Newcastle. But it's always felt to me like there's going to come a time where he's just not big enough for that job. And that Newcastle's evolution of where they want to get to is going to require a bigger name. And it's a little bit shallow, I get it, because I'm not sitting here to say Eddie Howe deserves to be fired because Eddie Howe's not doing a good enough job at Newcastle, because I think Eddie Howe's done a very good job at Newcastle. But I don't feel like he's going to be able to attract the type of players Mourinho or a manager of that ilk might have the pulling power for. I see the City trial date being set but not public date. Yeah, which is even more confusing, Corbyn, right? Like, why the secrecy of the date? Why is nobody else allowed to know? You know, there's a lot of problem with transparency in football, and they always hide behind something that we humans couldn't possibly understand, or some nonsense about it being private. Why does it have to be private? I don't get it. If the accounts have to be published, then why does shit have to be private? Feel sick and fed up watching that PGMOL video made to Jack Howe. Yeah, because it's just rinse and repeat. That's why. It's just going to be the same over and over. And Michael Owen is probably the worst person they could ever have. Because I've seen more pushback. I don't know, insert a funny comment there. I'm not quick-witted enough to put one in, but what exactly is he there for? Well, Howard, here we have a situation where Odegaard handballed against Liverpool. I think that might be a penalty, Howard. No pushback. No pressing questions. No what the viewers at home want to know. No, like, for me, a host in that situation should be the people's representative, asking the questions that the man and woman sitting at home on their sofa are thinking and want answers to. Not, scratching each other's back, patting each other on the back and saying how great we all are and being calm about. He's not your best mate, Michael. You're there to find out information. If you want to pretend you're a journalist, dude, then do some fucking journalism. What's the best option for match tickets going from Ireland? I don't know, other than going through travel agents, mate. I've never found a way. And I know that sounds like I'm dismissing you, but I've never been able to get this hookup for tickets coming from Ireland. I've only ever gone through a supporters club I was a part of, or booked through like Marathon Travel or one of them companies. We play Bristol. I think you're getting confused, Cyril. The Norwich and other Bristol games tomorrow, I think. So I don't think our opponents have been decided yet. Bristol, the other Bristol knocked West Ham out tonight, and it confused me as well. But I think the other game's been played tomorrow. Jose is not a builder of teams for the long haul. No, he's not. Granted. But he's a get you to where you want to be to win stuff, to get your name in the media, to build up the profile of the club type of guy. But you are right. He's only ever usually in there for 3-4 years at the club and, moves on. So I get that point. It's a fair point. Owen is there because he doesn't push back. So we're being shortchanged again then, right? Craig, for me, Jose is done now. Even Conte and Simeone have adapted their styles. Mourinho still tries to park the bus for 90. It didn't work in the modern game no more. Yeah, look, there's a fair conversation to be had around that with Mourinho. Absolutely. Is he a dinosaur in the game now? Has it moved past him? Potentially. I've often thought about Rafa Benitez in a similar type of vein. It's never really been the same for him since he left Liverpool. And he's had, different jobs that have never really done the same thing. Wolves leading against Brentford. Yeah, it was 1-1 before I came on that one. Just making sure I hadn't missed, because there's a couple of super chats. I've seen City Trial Day. Feel sick. Yeah, I've read that one. Frankie said, I want Mourinho as Norway national team coach. I think he'd be a brilliant national team coach. Because with national teams, you've a limited time together. So I think man motivation is a big part of national team coaching. And I can see him, Mourinho, being a good national team coach. I think that's not a bad show. I don't know. Can Norway pay him enough money? I don't know the budget of the Norwegian FA. Namibia beat Tunisia 1-0 in the AFCON. Not good for Salah. I seen the result earlier on. That's Namibia's first ever victory, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the African Cup of Nations. And I was just saying, there seems to be a lot of shocks, or at least surprising results. Egypt drawing 2-2 with Mozambique was a bit of a surprise. Ghana got beaten 2-1, but it was a Cape Verde or somebody. And then that Namibia result today. Yeah, it does feel like the AFCON's thrown up a few early surprises. Do you think we'll actually sign someone in January? So I think what all the journalists are saying is probably true. That we don't have any immediate targets, but we aren't closing off the market either. If something comes up that makes sense, the numbers are right, and it's something that Liverpool need, we'll act. And I know that's not a great answer, but I think it's the honest answer in this scenario from the club and from all the journalists. And I'm credit to them. I prefer that they speak that way, than just try to lie to us. So yeah, I've had a lot more respect for the journos and the way that they've dealt with this January market, because I think they're being truthful. And I do think if something popped up that worked for Liverpool, I think we'd do it. I think that's where we're really at the minute. And then any other major squad changes will probably be done in the summer. Do you think Salah deserves to be ahead of Messi in the team of the year? Oh, I don't know. People that get too caught up in these awards for my liking. I don't know. Like, we didn't have a great year last year as a team. And these awards are individual, so it makes it even harder to try and figure out what's actually beneficial. So do I want the player to do well, or do I want the team to do well? Well, I want the team to do well. And if that means that we have a lot of 7 out of 10s for the season, brilliant. I'd rather that consistency than a load of 10 out of 10s with some 4 out of 10s. I'm somebody that when I think of these type of awards, if one of our players wins it, brilliant. We'll congratulate them, we'll chat about it. But the only one that ever kind of wound me up a bit was Verge not winning the Ballon d'Or. I felt like we screwed ourselves by having good players, and the vote was split because of Mane and Salah and Verge. And that one, I felt like he should have won the Ballon d'Or that year. But other than that, I don't really mind these type of things. Imagine the scenes if United lose to Newport County. I mean, I would very much enjoy that. News in Elise will not be playing for Crystal Palace tomorrow from the internet. Is it Tayshaun? Is the injury? Because I know that he was doubtful with another muscle or hamstring injury or something like that. And that's something I think we need to keep an eye on for the rest of the season with Elise. Because you never want to call anybody injury prone, especially at this young age. But it's definitely something that I think if we're going to look at him as an option to bring in, we need to keep an eye on that part, all right. I actually think Canade is surpassing Virgil this season. I don't think it's hard because sometimes we see different things that we like, and we can all use statistics to back up our arguments in either way. But I think they're both having a good season, and that's a positive thing. And it scares me in a good way how good Ibrahima Konate could become, because he's still a baby when it comes to being a centre back. He's still a very, very young centre back, albeit has had a good bit of experience at this point. So yeah, the potential for Ibu is phenomenal. I always believed when Leipzig sold their 2 centre backs and Bayern Munich bought up and Maguire and we bought Canade, that we got the better end of that deal. And I still think to this day we got the better end of that deal. We got the better centre back. I would take Guimaraes and Isak off Newcastle if they continue to flounder. I think I'd edge to Isak if we were to pick somebody from Newcastle. Yeah, I think PSG have been strongly linked with Bruno Guimaraes in the last day or two. Obviously now that it's known there's a buyout clause in there, and that Newcastle, if they did have to sell one of their players, Guimaraes in particular, they spoke about being more open to the idea of him leaving the Premier League and going to a club in Europe somewhere than coming to a Premier League rival. Craig, you got a big belly. That's correct, yeah. Your point. Do you know what else is big? My following. Can you say the same? My big belly's got almost 250,000 subscribers. What's your tiny penis got? I can change my belly by not eating as much food. But you'll still be a prick on the internet trolling for fun because your life's feeling a bit empty. So don't you worry about me and my belly, dude. My belly's absolutely fine. It needs a big belly to cover up these big Irish nuts. So, there is that, Mohammed. Now imagine, Mohammed, I went in on you and start slagging you off. Maybe I spoke about the part of the world you're in or something like that. I'd be cancelled, wouldn't I, Mohammed? For being racist or a scumbag. Makes you think a little bit, but doesn't it? That maybe sometimes it isn't about anything other than the fact that some people are assholes. I'm too clever for you, Mohammed. I'm too quick-witted. I've been around the block, dude. You don't want this. Trust me. You wouldn't handle it. Have you noticed I'm being a lot more relaxed though? I know you're saying Muskrat and stuff, but I'm not getting angry. I'm just having fun with Mohammed. Not even my favourite Mohammed either. I don't even think you make the top 3 Mohammed. I'm just checking my notes, see if there's something else I've forgotten about. Okay. I think you guys might like this one. And I don't know how I didn't notice this till now, by the way, so apologies. Mundo Deportivo, who certainly have been known to frequent Bullshit Island, they said that Liverpool and Aston Villa have both shown interest in Real Sociedad midfielder Martin Zubamendi and his teammate Mikel Merino. Thoughts on that one? I have to say, of the two, I'd know a bit more about Zubamendi than I would about Merino. And 27 doesn't exactly strike me as likely for us, especially if it's going to be for a reasonably good fee. But Zubamendi, interesting. Now, I know a lot of you guys have been watching Kubo and a lot of other players over in Spain, but let us know what you think about this guy. Would you be interested? It doesn't mention a number. Doesn't mention a number, so I don't know what he would cost. Sarah said, I love Zubamendi. I'd happily take Zubamendi, said Trent is him, sorry. Never heard of them. That's alright, Tom, you know. There's loads of players, mate, that people ask me about that I've never heard of. Craig, you're a star. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate you, my man. Relax, Craig. Just ignore it, my brother. Do I seem like I'm not relaxed, Max? Mate? Look, I have listened to you guys, and I'm trying not to be angry at them, but you have to understand something as well. Sometimes I enjoy it. Sometimes I like having a pop back. Sometimes it makes me happy. Kubo looks a very good player. Yes, sir, he does. Coming in late from Australia. What was the AIT-NOURI and COLWILL news? No problem, bud. Let me just go through my notes again real quick. Right, so I think initially this came from HITC, but Graham Bailey and I think Football Insider have kind of picked up on this a little bit as well. Who was this gentleman? I want to address you properly. Where has it gone? Will. So they say Liverpool are ready to test Chelsea's resolve with a move for Levi Colwill. The Reds were strongly linked with the Chelsea centre-back during the summer as the club saw a left-sided central defender, though Colwill committed his future to Chelsea by signing a new contract. HITC have claimed that Liverpool maintained a watching brief on the 20-year-old and are keen to inform the Londoners of their interest should they decide to sell the English star amid profit and sustainability concerns. So I think the thought process, Will, on this one has been if they're willing to sell Conor Gallagher, who is their captain, probably one of their better players this year, and a homegrown academy product, who's to say if they have to wiggle around some money to free up funds that maybe it wouldn't be worth approaching them over Colwill. I think that's the thought process behind these. And the one for AIT-NOURI said that Liverpool and Arsenal both want to be kept informed of his situation, and that Wolves don't want to sell, and they mentioned the summer price tag of 50 million. But what surprised me about that, Will, was the fact that he's only 22. I thought AIT-NOURI was a few years older than that. So yeah, that's pretty much it, where we're at with those, mate. Liverpool don't need to sign anyone, said Lowe. You know what? I mean, I'm open to that. So, when we go into the January transfer window, I probably felt we definitely needed to sign somebody. I think at that moment I felt like, yeah. But now that, you know, we're in a bit of a break and there's some time and we've got guys coming back, so you've got Costas and Robbo and maybe Thiago, and Trent shouldn't be too far away, and Szoboszlai should be just about there as well. I'm definitely open to the possibility that if the right move doesn't come up, not to force something in January. So yeah, I think I'm mellowing out a bit about the whole market in January. I think, as I've said all along and what the journalists have said, if the right opportunity comes up for Liverpool, yeah, we might make a deal. If it doesn't, we move ahead to the summer. Yeah, this is one of the then when I don't feel like we're getting a bait and switch from the owners in this window. And that's when I usually get worked up the most. If we've been led down a path after a window closes about something happening in the next window, and then the next window comes along and all of a sudden things have changed, that's when I get a bit annoyed. But we're probably ahead of schedule in the evolution of this team. And yeah, I'm happy. I think we're all excited about what the prospect of this group is. And, I guess we want to make sure that we're putting ourselves in the best position to have a good end to the season and push on. But I'm okay with it. I'm open to the idea of us not doing any business. And that's not something I say very often. Which defender do you think we should buy? Look, here's another Mohammed Mohammed, you're already ahead of the other Mohammed, bud. You've moved up a level here, Mohammed. So Mohammed Harris said, which defenders do you think we should buy? So I'm going to work off the understanding that I don't think we renew Joel Matip. I think it's too much of a risk with the ACL and stuff. So I think we need a centre-back. Who would I buy? I think the show for Mark Gay earlier on in the chat, I absolutely think that's a good pick. I'm fully behind the idea of testing Chelsea's resolve for COLWILL. And on the fullback side of things, I'm going to be really honest about it. I feel like we need to bring in somebody to take Costas' place. And the reason I'm saying that is not because I don't like Costas. But when we signed Costas, there was two questions, I guess, that we were all asking ourselves. Question one, will he be a good enough backup to Andy Robertson? And for that, I feel like the answer could be yes. Occasionally, to rotate or play him, that's okay. But will he be able to take over from Andy Robertson? That, I feel the answer is no. And that's why I would say I think Liverpool could be better placed to look at left side for the future. Now, maybe Beck or Chambers or somebody could provide that answer. And I'm open to that possibility as well. But I wouldn't, if Andy Robertson had to retire tomorrow, let's say, I don't feel Kostas Tsimikas will give us the same level consistently that we've had from Andy Robertson. So that's where I think I'm at with Kostas. And then there's the goalkeeper situation as well that we spoke about yesterday. So Brighton, Brentford, Celtic are all apparently interested in Kelleher, and Liverpool have a price tag of 20 million. So then we got to figure out, if Kelleher does move on, what profile of backup keeper the club want to bring in. Do they want to bring in an older, experienced keeper maybe at the end of their time to wait to see what happens with Pitaluga and Yaros, or do you go out there and bring in another youngster like the one that we've been linked with from Sunderland? Patterson, is that his name? Do you by any chance know when Robertson is back? Yeah, actually, Sarah, there was a post from Andy Robertson on social media that showed that he was over in Dubai putting himself through the paces over in the winter sun. Fair play to him. I wish I was over there myself getting a bit of sun. But he looks like he's close. And the feeling is it'll either be the end of this month or the start of next month. So pretty much on track for what we thought. Was Bale linked to Liverpool before Madrid? Not that I can remember. United strongly. I remember strong links for Gareth Bale and Manchester United. But Gareth Bale would have been out of our price range at that point. We wouldn't have been in the Gareth Bale business back then. We wouldn't have had the money. Sepp van den Berg is looking an amazing player. Yes, and he's still a Liverpool player on loan this season. And of all of the ones that we've loaned out, all the centre-backs, like the likes of Reece Williams and stuff, he's the one for me. Billy Comedio, no. Reece Williams, no. But Van den Berg, I feel like, I don't know if... I think he might have a chapter left at Liverpool. Certainly, I feel like he might deserve at least a season at the club to see how he gets on as a fourth or fifth choice. See, I was told the thought process of Kelleher going somewhere was bait. Maybe to Celtic, but not him leaving. but overall out somewhere. So I'm not going to sit here and proclaim to know the inside of Liverpool's thought processes, but I would imagine that we'd sell Kelleher, but probably put back a buyback clause in it. That would be my best guess at it, or at least first option on him. That would make more sense to me than loaning him, because we'd also want to free up the money, if you get me. So if you sell him, you still know you can take him back if he turns out to be this worldy keeper who tears it up at wherever, Celtic, Brentford, Brighton. You still have the option. That's the smarter business play than loaning him, where you're not really seeing the value of him. Frimpong would be an ideal replacement for Robbo. Wrong side though. Isn't Frimpong on the right? Great attacking player. Feel Madrid might look at him. Maybe Frimpong right. What's the other dude? Alphonso Davies left, perhaps. But look, again, you're probably talking pretty big money there if Bayer Leverkusen have the season that it looks like they're going to have. That makes sense to me, Craig. Thanks for that input. All good, my man. All good. Occasionally I do talk a little bit of sense in between the waffle. Right, my friends, I'm going to call it a night. I didn't realise we've been on nearly an hour 45. It flies by when you're enjoying yourself. So look, before you head off, please do hit the like button. Let's get the likes up. There's 400 at the minute. We can get that up if we hit that like button. Please do check out the Clips channel as well, where I think you'll find some funny moments and stuff over there, and hopefully you enjoy it. And don't forget, if you are in the neck of the woods of Boston in March 22nd, Anfield Agenda's World Tour of Boston is happening at the Foundation Room in the House of Blues, Boston, right across from Fenway Park. You can find those tickets on Ticketmaster if you'd like to come and join us over there. But until tomorrow, I'll see you guys at 4 o'clock tomorrow. So we'll have a stream at 4 o'clock and another one at 8:30. Much love. You guys are awesome. Thanks for another fun evening. And I'll catch up with you tomorrow. Have a good one. Lots of love. Bye-bye.